All right. So good morning, everyone. Okay. So um, I hope everyone is safe. I hope you're all at home right now. So Okay. So yes, good morning everyone. So before we start, can I just ask from everyone watching right now, can you just type in the comments down below if you're watching via Zoom? Can you just type where you're watching this from, or if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube? Okay, so can you see my presentation? Right. So I hope you're seeing my presentation right now. Okay. So good morning again, everyone. My name is March Nasino. So on behalf of the officers and the Board of Trustees of the People Management of the Philippines, or PMAP, 2020 PMAP President Luisa Mila Echeverria and Executive Director Rene Jenner, we would like to welcome you in today's webinar brought to you by the Asian Institute of Human Resource Management, the training arm of PMAP. Of course, special thanks to AIHRM, President Lucy Terilla, officers and trustees, and the PMAP professional staff for making this online learning session possible. But before anything else, I just would like to share with you the screen right here. So for questions, please check the one you're seeing in your screen right now. So this webinar is recorded, and please do check the website. That's pmap.com, and also this also is streamed via Facebook, and it's also being uploaded on YouTube. So feel free to invite your friends. You can tag your friends. You can share this to your friends right now, right? And I have later on. Okay, so later on, I'm gonna have surprises for you guys. So this is not just a typical webinar that you know of, because you're in here for a treat. So yes, welcome to the webinar session, the core competencies and development, the core competencies of learning and development. So I have little surprises for you later on. So make sure you tune in during the webinar until the end of the webinar, because I have surprises. I'll be giving away prizes for you guys. So I'll be giving away copies of this book. So later on during the presentation, I'm gonna ask questions for you guys, and uh, three of you will be chosen to win these exciting prizes, these books: Mission Happiness Journal, Money and Me, Conquering Stage Fright, and Money and Me. And also, this is my surprise for you. For the HR Summit professional in the house, if you're an HR professional, can you just comment down below? I'm an HR professional. Be proud. Okay, so you can download the free your free pass to the HR Summit Global. It's a free pass. It's a 24-hour pass actually. So you may download it there. And also at the end of the webinar, if you stay until the end of the webinar, you'll get a chance to get a VIP passes to the HR Summit Global. That's actually worth $165. How about that? So you'll get to hear from the likes of Bo Sanchez and other speakers, and you can join that. That's actually the HR Summit Global. You can join that's the biggest online summit for HR professionals and business global leaders globally. That's worth $165. But today, I'm going to share it to you for free for just for just two people. So make sure you tune in, you stay until the end of the webinar, because I'm going to give away exciting prizes for you guys. Right, so we're just about to start. So before we formally start this webinar, can you just comment down below? Let's get it on. Can you just comment the phrase "let's get it on" before we start? So there's no way for me to see your comments right now because I'm sharing my screen. But can you just comment down below? Let's get it on. Right. So we're about to get this thing started. Okay. So welcome to this webinar. And as always, whenever I give talks, whenever I give trainings, I always would like to start by sharing with you a story. So I would like to share a story. There's this story of an elderly woman who's always on the water's edge every morning. And with her every day is a metal cage sitting beside her. And this metal cage, she actually uses the metal cage to catch turtles, just like what's being shown on the screen, to catch turtles. But don't you worry because there's no turtles being harmed in the story. So what this lady does is that she uses the cage to catch them so she can clean off their shells from algae and scum, which reduces their ability to swim and the corrosion that weakens their shell over time. And every time she does that, after removing the algae, after removing the scum, only then she puts them back to the water. That's quite a noble deed, right? Now, you know what? These actually went on for how many weeks until finally there's this one woman who was who has been seeing what the old lady was doing, the same spot almost every day. And until one day she got the nerve to ask the old woman, and she said something along these lines. She said, "You know what, old lady? I don't mean to be rude and all, but don't you think your time can be better spent elsewhere? I mean, what you're doing is it's kind, yes, but there are a million turtles out there, and you're just one old lady. What possible difference could it make?" You know, that old lady just smiled and she removed the last algae on that turtle and she said to that girl, "You know what? If this little guy could talk, he'd tell, I just made a difference in his world. I just made a difference in his world." You know what, friends? The reason why I share that with you is because probably right now, whatever profession you're into right now, but whatever is your profession right now, you might be telling me, what what difference could I make to these people? There are a lot of people that I need to reach out to. What difference could it make? You know what? If you could just touch the life of just one person, then it could mean the world to him or her. And that's also the reason why we're having this webinar. And we're having the core competencies of learning and development because the mere purpose of this webinar is to improve your training and development competencies. And it's my hope that after this webinar, not only do you get learning from it, not only do you take away something from it, but I want you to share it as well. Because that's the main goal of this webinar. And again, I would like to thank you for being with me today, for being with us today. I'd like to thank PMUP for organizing this webinar right now. I believe we have four close to 500 participants via Zoom and close to 500 participants via Zoom. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. So probably right now you might be asking me, who is this March Nasino that's talking about these things? Does he even know it's what he's talking about? Okay, so I hear you. That's why allow me to share a brief background about myself. So this is I'm a digital marketing trainer, and I'm also a speaker. I give talks to multinational companies about leadership, positivity, and other things. And I'm also a digital marketing trainer under the Department of Information Communications Technology. And I also lead the small fees. If you're familiar with the fees under the Light of Jesus family, I lead these small fees in Feast Tarmul EDSA. So let me just show you a few some of my pictures. So this was my picture when I was invited to give a talk to the Bucket List Summit. So the second one, this was when I gave a talk in Growth Summit for a certain topic in Baguio City. And this was when I gave a digital marketing training to the small medium enterprise in Taytay Rizal. And this was when I gave trainings to this multinational company. And this was also when I led the team composed of trainers where we trained the Dole managers regarding life skills. But my life is not just about training and all, because I also have uh, other side. This is my other side. I'm also an Ironman finisher. For those of you who are into sports, um, I, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Ironman, but yeah, I'm also an Ironman finisher. And yes, I lead this Feast Tarmol EDSA that we hold every Tuesday. Um, we do our online thing every Tuesday, especially it's a lockdown now. And yes, it's an organization founded by Brother Bo Sanchez. Now, okay, I want to pause for a moment because right now some of you may be raising their eyebrows. Why are you sharing your accomplishments? Why are you sharing your achievements? What does that have to do with the training that we have now? Let me just drink my water. What does that have to do? I'm sharing this with you not to brag, but to tell you that I started somewhere. I started somewhere. And the reason why I get to do all these things right now is because just like you, I also attended webinars. I also attended seminars. I also sought mentors. I also looked for resources. And that's what you're doing right now. That's why I commend everyone watching these right now. Because you could have chosen to sleep, could have chosen to go back to your bed, because I believe you're watching this at home, right? And you could have just chosen to watch Netflix, but you're here. You're constantly learning. So yes, I started somewhere. I started from scratch as well. I used to work. I used to be one of the frontliners. I'm a registered nurse by profession, and I used to work in the ICU setting. And when I resigned, I had to go back. I had to pick myself up. I had to go back from scratch, just like what you're doing right now. Because I always believe, just like what my uncle Albert Einstein once said, that once you stop learning, you start dying, right? So for the learners in the house, can you just wave your hands? Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to be with me today. So there, yes, I am a member of the Toastmasters International. For those of you who are Toastmasters in the house, can you just comment if you're a Toastmaster? I'm a Toastmaster. It's a speech club. We're in twice a month. We deliver speeches and we get evaluated. So more of the I'll be sharing some of the learnings that I learned in Toastmasters later on, since our topic's all about core competencies of learning and development. Okay, so that's my point. But my point really is that I had to start somewhere and I had to learn something. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. Because today, what we're going to talk about is this model called ADDIE or ADDIE model. For those of you who are familiar, consider this as your refresher, right? So this AD model is actually the most commonly used model for instructional design, and it includes 5 phases. These are the things that we're going to talk about today in the duration of the session. So there's analyze, design, develop, implement, evaluate. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Oh, by the way, I just would like to greet everyone watching right now. I learned from our PMOP friends, that we have people as far as people from Nepal or other countries. If you're outside the Philippines, can you just comment if you're outside the Philippines? If you're watching outside the Philippines right now. Great. Okay. So we're gonna talk about the AD model or the ADDIE model, however you pronounce it. And I'd like to start by sharing with you this this Titanic movie. I mean, if you're my age, okay, if you're my age, you may have watched this movie Titanic, right? I'm not gonna reveal to you my age, but if you're my age, you may have watched this movie Titanic, right? And we all know that this is a blockbuster at the time, Titanic. But we also know what we also know is that the reason why this Titanic, which is the largest at the time, sank was because it hit an iceberg, right? It hit an iceberg. And come to think of it, guys, come to think of it, Titanic was the largest ship in the world, at least at the time. It was very big. In fact, the biggest for the time, that was 1912. And yet, it sank. When it hit an iceberg, it sank, right? So there are two perspectives that I want all of us here to take a look into. There are two perspectives. The number one perspective is this: Titanic, which is the biggest ship at the time, that was 1912. The first perspective that we can get here is that it doesn't matter how big your company is, if you don't know how to solve problems, if you don't know how to stand the test of time, it can always sink. Type yes down below if you agree. That's the first perspective. The second perspective that we want to look at here is this: that iceberg. Sometimes people only see the tip of the iceberg, right? I don't know about you, but when I watched the movie Titanic, when it hit the iceberg, I was wondering how in the world could these small icebergs get to sink this big, huge, gigantic Titanic, right? And that's the iceberg theory. Sometimes people only see the tip of the iceberg, but what they don't recognize are its foundations, how it stood the test of times, that they're able to sink problems as big as Titanic. And that is the model of most of the companies right now. They're successful. Most of the people, what they only see are the success, the tip of the iceberg, but what they don't see is its foundation that lies beneath, right? What people don't see are the dedication, the hard work, the discipline, the disappointment, the sacrifice, the failure, and the persistence. That's the reason why you need to have a model. You need to you need to have a system in place. And what we're the system that we're going to talk about here today is this AD model or the AD system. It's actually the generic process traditionally used by instructional designers and training developers. So there are 5 phases which we will be um, delving on in a moment. So the 5 phases are the analysis, the design, development, the implementation, and evaluation. So it represents a dynamic, flexible guideline for building an effective training and performance support tools. All right, so let's get this thing started. Let's start with the analysis phase. Let's start with the analysis phase. So what is this analysis phase all about? Of course, from the word itself, analysis, probably you already have an idea what this is. But uh, let's take a look what why is it important for us to know this analysis phase. So what are the questions that we need to address during the analysis phase? By the way, as I'm discussing this to you right now, I want you to think of a certain company, probably your company, and how can you apply these concepts in your company right now. So the questions that we need to consider here is number one, who is the audience and their characteristics? Number two, identify the new behavioral outcome. What types of learning constraints exist? What are the delivery options? What are the method and practice of teaching considerations? What is the timeline for project completion? I know those are all probably for non-HR professionals, those are kind of jargon to you. But later on, we're gonna dive right into that. So talk about another story. I just want to share with you another story. Years ago, this stream right now. So I hope you're seeing my screen. So years ago, there was this outbreak, terrible outbreak of disease in a tiny village in a remote part of Africa. So both children and adults were getting sick. They were vomiting, and several weeks passed. This sickness became widespread, and people started dying. So word of the disease reached the main city in that area, and experts were dispatched to try to figure out what's wrong, what's causing the problem, why are people dying, why are people vomiting. You know what? They soon discovered that the water was contaminated because the source of the water is it's being sourced in that stream. So the village got its water supply from a mountain stream. So what they did was they tried every solution that they can think of, but none of it was working. And what happened was, since the source is from the mountain stream that was spread from a spring, so the experts decided to trek upstream and hopefully find the source of the pollution. Because people are already dying, people are already getting sick. So they traveled for days and finally came to the mouth of the stream. They were on the mouth of the stream, just like what you're seeing in your screen right now. But on the surface, they found nothing wrong. They found nothing wrong on the surface. They were puzzled. They were puzzled. So they decided to send some divers down to search as closely to the springs opening as possible. So they sent divers just to take a look at what's going on underneath. So what the divers discovered shocked the experts. You know what happened? There was a large mother pig. There was a large mother pig and her baby piglets who were wedged. They were actually stuck at the opening of the spring. And evidently, they had fallen in, drowned. They were drowned and somehow gotten stuck there. They were gotten stuck there. Now, all that crystal clear, pure mountain spring water was being contaminated just because, just because of the dead mother pig and its piglets, which are that are stuck in the main opening of that stream. So in no time after the divers were able to extricate the dead pigs, the water began to flow clean and pure once again. So probably you get the point of the story, right? You get the point of the story that what we're doing right now, since we're on the analysis phase, the main point of the story is this. It's hard to find a solution if you don't know the root cause, right? It's hard to find a solution if you don't know the root cause. How can you solve a problem if you don't know the root cause? So that's the importance of knowing, of going through the analysis phase. Um, I remember this quote was once said by Yehuda Berg. She said, every little action creates an impact. We are all interconnected. Would you agree that we are all interconnected right now? We are all interconnected. Every little action creates an effect. Just like what just like the thing that's happening right now. Everyone is watching this at home. Why? We're under enhanced community quarantine, not just in Metro Manila, not just the rest of the zone, but other countries as well. So every little action creates an effect. So we are all interconnected. So probably some of you right now, we don't know each other here, but we're all interconnected in one way or another, right? So in a company, what I'm saying here is that we are all interconnected in such a way that if one employee doesn't do his or her job well, then it affects the ROI of that company. That brings me to the training needs analysis. Why is it important for us to get to know the training needs analysis? What are the benefits for our business anyway, right? So the first benefit is this. You identify knowledge gaps before they become a problem. You identify the knowledge gaps, just like what happened in that story, wherein there was a gap. People didn't know what to do. Little did they know that the only problem was that there's something stuck in the mouth of the stream, right? So that's identify knowledge gaps before they become a problem. Just a second, let me just take a look. Okay, right. So identify knowledge gaps before they become a problem. Number two is it helps you to plan your training for the year. You see, companies just it's not normal for a company to just give trainings just because choose to just randomly pick what kind of training to give to their employees, right? So by doing the training needs analysis, it helps you to plan your training for the year. Number three is that it highlights training you may not have considered. It highlights training you may not have considered. Probably, just like this training that we've given to multinational company somewhere in Laguna. They had to do the training needs analysis because apparently their employees were not that motivated anymore to work. Probably some of you can relate. You don't have the drive. They don't have the drive. They don't have the push anymore. So they later found out that they need to undergo this positivity training, which we gave, right? So another benefit for your company is that it ensures your training is focusing on the right areas. Ensures your training is focusing on the right areas. And number five, it helps to decide who should attend which training sessions. Again, in the same way that you just don't give seminars, just pick what training randomly to give to your employees. It's also in the same way that you just don't decide who should attend which training sessions. You need to do the training needs analysis in order for you to find out who are qualified to go through this training, right? So that's number 5. Number 6, it helps you to prioritize training needs, right? It helps you to prioritize training needs. And right now, probably what the thing that you have in your mind is, how do you actually do that, right? How do you actually do that? Number 1, there's later on, we're gonna dive right into this, but you can do this by deciding on skill sets, the skill sets of your employees. Number 2 is evaluate the skills of staff. Of course, are they, is there a, probably there's the skills that they're doing right now is not much with the thing that they want to do or they're passionate about. Evaluate the skills of staff. Number 3 is highlight the skills gap. So there may have been a skills gap. That's the reason why. And what is the tool that we're going to use to check about all these things? We're going to use the MAJOR. If you're French, you can pronounce it as MAJOR. The MAJOR, or Major and High Performance Analysis Model. So it's actually a model for gap analysis and initial needs assessment. So the MAJOR and High Performance Analysis Model. To illustrate to you my point, I have prepared a video for you. So I hope watch this video, and I hope you get the point that I'm trying to drive here. So watch this video. Oops.
Once I'm chasing my dreams.
Okay, let me just.
Ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to make it. That's why I eat these pot noodles. Less time cooking. More time chasing my dreams. After all, success doesn't come on a plate. Those extra minutes made all the difference. They said I'd never make it, but here I am. Vegas!
It's quite hilarious, right? Well, the point that I'm trying to derive here is that it's hard to find out if you don't. It's hard to find out what that thing that you need to find out if you don't do the training needs analysis. Why? Because a problem well stated is a problem half solved. Okay, a problem well stated is a problem half solved. Okay, so what is a performance problem? What is a performance problem? It's the discrepancy between ideal performance and actual performance, and effects can vary from mild to extreme. The performance, it's called the performance gap. So once a problem, just like what you're seeing in your screen right now, once a problem or gap is recognized, the HPT practitioner or the whoever it is that will implement this one can go through a series of questions to find the right solution to the performance gap or problem, right? So let's take a look on this MAJOR or Major and Pipes model for analyzing performance problem. Just a second, let me just check if my audio is working. Okay. Okay, because there's no way for me to find out if it's working unless I check my messenger, because our PMAP friend and representative, G, she's the one telling me if it's working or not. Okay, so let's continue. the Major and Pipes model for analyzing performance problems. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. So there's no way for me to check the comments in the Zoom. So allow me to pardon, bear with me if I need to check my cell phone every now and then. So let's dive right into this. So the Major and Pipes model for analyzing performance problem. So there are 7 steps to this. The first step is that what should be happening. So think of an employee in mind. Probably this someone who's kind of problematic. Is an employee who always comes in late, and you know an employee whom you always have an issue in terms of his or her work. So think of that employee. So the first step that you can do is ask yourself, what is the performance problem? You may want to ask what should be happening. That's number one. Number two is what is actually happening, right? So step two is it worth fixing? So what would happen if we did nothing? Say, for example, there's this employee who comes in late every time. So ask yourself, is this something that we need to fix? Is this worth fixing? What would happen if we did nothing, right? So step three, can we apply fast fixes? Can we actually apply fast fixes? So there are 3 questions to ask. Number one is, do the employees know that what is expected? Do the employees have the tools or equipment or resources they need? Do the employees get feedback on their performance? Right? And step number 4, are the consequences right side up? Are the consequences right side up? Are the wrong being rewarded or punished, or are there any consequences at all? Step 5, is there a skill deficiency? So ask yourself, is there a skill deficiency? Is the skill used often? Could they do it in the past? And can the task be simplified? Right? Could they do it in the past? And the step 6 is, are there other causes? Say, for example, can the task be simplified? Are there obstacles remaining? Or do they have what it takes? Step 7 is, which solutions are best? Are they feasible? What are the costs of possible solutions? And draft and implement the action plan. So allow me to share with you this performance analysis flow diagram. So come to if you would notice, interestingly, I want you to take a look at the last portion, at the last stage. The last stage. So interestingly, if you would notice, the last step on the flow chart is to implement training. Why? Because the goal of the as the flow chart shows, training should be one of the last interventions an HPT practitioner should consider, as it is usually the most expensive. So it's usually the last step on the flow chart. The last step is to implement training, because before you give training, whatever trainings that person or that employee needs, you need to go through the steps first. So the last step is to implement. Why? Because it is usually the most expensive, right? It's usually the most expensive. So let's just do a recap. Um, the Matter and Pipes model of decision analysis. Step 1 is you need to analyze what is the performance problem. Again, think of that person. Think of that certain person or employee. What's the performance problem anyway? Right? Step 2 is the performance problem worth fixing? Is there a way for you to fix the problem? Number 3 is there a fix? Is there a fix? Number 4, step 4, are the consequences right and up? So don't worry. I'm going to send to you the PMAP will be sending to you the copy, the PDF copy of this presentation. If you weren't able to capture the diagram and the questions earlier, so we're going to send it to you. later on in order for your reference. So I hope that helps, right? So step number four is, are the consequences right and up? And step number five, is there a skill deficiency? So I believe it's really important to find out or to know. And step six, are there other causes? And step seven is, which solutions are best? Again, going back to the performance analysis flow diagram, the main purpose of the measure and pipe is that the reason that you need to analyze, the reason that you need to check what's going on is because this is the thing that you have in mind. The last step on the flow chart, if you would notice, is to implement training. Why? It's usually the most expensive. It's usually the most expensive. So you need to be able to analyze it well. That's how important the measure and pipe model is, right? So there we're done with the first step. That's analysis, training needs analysis. We're about to dive right into the introduction to training design. But before that, as promised, I have little surprise for you. So this time, as promised, I'm gonna give away copies of this book for free. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna flash the question in a moment, and you're gonna answer it. Our PMAP representatives will choose who will win the prize. So for the first prize, the Mission Happiness Journal. So it's actually an actual book. So if you're the winner of this book, our PMAP representative will get your details, and I'm gonna send it to you via Lalamove or whatever means we have. So there. So are you ready for the question? And okay, can you just comment down below? I'm ready. Are you ready? Okay. Okay, I see comments. So there, I see a lot of comments popping up right now. There. Okay, so here we go. So here's the first question. Here's the first question. I'm gonna flash it now. So here's the first question. What is your single biggest challenge when it comes to training needs analysis? What is your single biggest challenge when it comes to training needs analysis? Okay, so you may comment your answer down below. What's your single biggest challenge? I'll give you 30 seconds to answer that. All right, I see a lot of comments. Okay. Right, what is your single biggest challenge? You might be the first winner of our little surprise for today, which is the Mission Happiness Journal. I'm gonna send it to you, the actual copy of the book. All right, I see comments popping up right now. Right. Okay, so last 10 seconds. All right. Okay. Okay, so I believe, so it's up to our PMAP representatives who to choose. After, I'll be announcing the winners at the end of the webinar. Okay, that's just for the first prize. Our PMAP representatives will be choosing our winner for the first for our first giveaway, which is the Mission Happiness Journal. Okay, thank you so much for participating, guys. So let's move on to the second stage, which is, we're just done with the first stage. So I want you to just tune in, because we still have lots and lots of surprises for you guys. Okay, so we're already done with the first stage, which is the analysis, and we talked about the training needs analysis, of course, the Madger and Pipe model. Now let's move on to the second one. Oh, by the way, guys, I also have this. Also, one of the surprises that I have for you. You'll have a chance to download. I mean, you'll get the free access to this HR Summit Global. It's a 24-hour access, because it's a paid program. It's actually $165, but you can access it for 24 hours. So you can get to hear from the speakers that we have. We have high caliber speakers there. So just go to bit.ly/pmap/March. So there. So for the free access of our HR Summit Global. All right, so let's move on. Let's move on to introduction to training design. Okay, so whenever we do the design, at least for me, whenever I start something, whenever I get invited to give a talk or do a presentation, the first thing that I always do is to look for the one big message. Look for the one big message. Say, for example, this training right now, this webinar session right now, which is the core competencies of training and development. So when I did the presentation for this one, I first thought about, okay, what is the one big message? And for me, the one big message is that we are all interconnected. Everyone is interconnected. So if one employee fails, it affects the company. It affects the ROI of the company, right? So that's the one big message. So if you start training, designing the training after doing your training needs analysis, the first thing that you need to do if you're designing your content is to think about the one big message. That's also the thing that I usually do whenever at least for us preachers, because I also preach every Tuesday. Um, the first thing that comes to mind, the first thing that's being given to us is the one big message. Okay, so what's the one big message? What's the one big message of the talk of the training? So that's the first one. And also, it's really important. Probably you've heard of this a lot of times now. Begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. That's according to Stephen Covey, the seven habits of highly effective people. There was one time I I got to be one of the pacers. So I used to be active in running. I'm a triathlete. Before I became a triathlete, I used to be active in running. There was one time I got to be invited as one of the pacers. So the end goal in mind is to finish 10 kilometers in 60 minutes. That's the end goal. Now, before I did my training, I, I, I had to think first, okay, so the goal is to finish it in 60 minutes. I mean, the 10 kilometers in 60 minutes. Because not only do I need to set this goal, but the reason I need to do that is because I'm a pacer. The role of the pacer is that people will be at your back. People will run with you. So you lead them in order for them to reach that certain goal, which is to finish 10 kilometers in 60 minutes. So there, begin with the end in mind. In the same way, when you're creating your design, when you're designing your presentation, when you're designing your talk, begin with the one big message. What is the goal? What is the vision? You know what, guys? Surprisingly, this end in mind, beginning with the end in mind, the one big message, is also in the Bible. Take note, I am not even preaching here, but it's in Proverbs 29:18. It says that without a vision, the people will perish. So as a leader, as somebody who creates your content, as somebody who designs your content, you need to have a vision. Why? Without a vision, the people will perish. It's in Proverbs 29:18. I'm not preaching right now, but I'm just telling you, it's in the Bible as well, right? You need to have a vision. What do you want to accomplish at the end of the training? What do you want them to take away? What do you want them to get from these things that you're sharing to them, right? Without a vision, the people will perish. Also, it's really important. This is what I usually do: storyboards or mind map. I'm a I'm a fa- I'm fond of doing mind maps or storyboards. So it's also the same way of doing the beginning, the concept of begin with the end in mind. So it's important for you to know where you're currently at right now, what's the problem that you need to solve, and what is the goal that you need, what is the mission at the end of this. What's your mission? So you need to have the storyboards, right? So it's really important that you have this one big message, begin with the end in mind, create storyboards. So there, And other thing is that you also need to apply instructional strategies according to the intended behavioral outcomes. So you need to understand that people have different learning styles. I mean, later on, I want you to tell me, I want you to comment down below if you're a visual, if you're auditory, if you're kinesthetic. So why is it important for us to learn these things? Why? Because of this. Which learning style are you? So let me share this with you. We have auditory. Don't you know? Don't you know that auditory learners make up 30% of the population? Right? If you're an auditory learner, can you just comment down below? Are you an auditory learner? I myself, I love listening to music. I love listening to audiobooks. I'm also an auditory. That's auditory. The second one is visual. Don't you know that visual learners make up 65% of the population? Right? That's 65%, the visual learners. And we also have the kinesthetic that makes up just 5% of the population. Right? So if you know your learning style, can you just comment down below? Are you an auditory? Are you visual? Are you kinesthetic? I'm going to share with you some of the points later if you still don't know which learning style are you, right? Now, why is it important? Why is it important for you to know your learning style? Why? Because knowing what type of learner you are is one thing. Knowing what type of learner you are is one thing, but being aware of what type of learners your mentees are is another. So guys, when you do the design, it's not just about it, this is not about you, right? So you don't just think about your learner style, but you think about the learner style of the people of your mentees, because you're not effective if you're coming from your default mode. You're not effective if you're coming from default mode. So knowing what type of learner you are is one thing, but being aware of what type of learners your mentees are is another. There are people who are auditory, 65% are visual, 5% are kinesthetic. So there. So who are these people? Who are visual people? The keyword here is show. They love seeing things. They love watching things. They love reading things. They love show. They love to write and draw. Right? This is for the visual. They want to see it. They want to see it. So I want you to take note of this. The other thing is auditory. The keyword here is tell. You need to tell. They want to hear it. They want to listen. They want to hear. They want to be told. They want you to tell. They want you to discuss. These are the people who love to sing, who love to listen to music. So number the last one is of course kinesthetic. This comprises of the 5% of the population. They these are the people who love to be touched. They're the touchy type of person. Kinesthetic. They love to feel, smell, taste, touch, move, build. These are the action people. They want to do it. So there. Now that you know the different types of learning styles, I want you to comment again. Which one are you? Are you visual? Are you auditory? Or are you kinesthetic? That's very important, right? That's very important. It's also important for you to find out your mentees. What type of learning styles are they? So there. So why am I sharing these things with you? Because most of you are probably aware of this. I don't know if you've already heard about the 20-40-80 rule. Are you familiar with that rule? The 20-40-80 rule. So here's what it says by the 20-40-80 rule. Adults learn. Adults typically remember 20%. 20% of what they hear. Sorry, 20% of what they hear. 40% of what they hear and see, and 80% of what they hear, what they see, and what they do. So there. So when you design your training, you don't just think about, okay, I just want to talk and talk and talk, because these people, they also want engagement. You need to engage them, just like what I'm doing right now, eliciting comments from you guys, because the thing here is the 20-40-80 rule. Because of this 20-40-80 rule, people remember 20% of what they hear, 40% of what they hear and see, and 80% of what they hear, see, and do. That's engagement. And they even learn better when there is repeated practice of the new skill, right? They learn better when they practice the new skills. So there, I hope you got something out of that. Um, we also have to apply visual design or graphic design. For in my case, what happened was what worked was I was just informed by um, by somebody from PMAP, Jay, and then she gave me the copy of the poster. So what I did was I had to pattern the slides that you're seeing right now. I had to pattern that with um, my presentation because it talks about the branding as well. Because you know, I don't know about you, but have you once saw an ad on Facebook that when you click that ad, you were taken to a page or to a website wherein it doesn't have to what what you just saw on Facebook doesn't even it's not even aligned to the website that you just clicked. So there, it's really important that you um, it's really important to become consistent with the graphics because that's your branding, right? So what I use is I'm not sure if you're familiar with Canva. I believe everyone's familiar with Canva, right? So that's the tool that I use. I know a bit of Photoshop, but I use what I use is Canva, and I hope we have another session where we discuss about this Canva thing. But in the interest of time, I'm just gonna share with you. It's a free software. You can use. You can download it on your phone. You can also use. You can also sign up with a free account via your desktop. So it's it's really important that you know these things, right? So apply visual design. The next thing is the business communication purpose, the know, feel, and do. Again, guys, this is also very important. What do you want your audience to know? What do you want your audience to feel? What do you want your audience to do? Right? Um, if you want them to know, how do you do that? You need to share, you need to inform, you need to educate. So feel, what do you want your audience to feel? How do you do that? You need to inspire, you need to impress, you need to entertain. If you would if you would notice, you would have noticed a while back when I started my presentation, I started with a story. And you may be telling yourself right now, why is this guy even sharing stories with us when in fact these webinars should be a technical thing? You know, these are the usual concerns of people, especially the business to business. They're saying that why are you even sharing these stories? It's not proper because the um, it's a technical thing. You know, whether you're interacting with business to consumer or business to business, you're always interacting with a human, and humans have emotions. If you are a human, can you just comment down below? I'm a human and I have emotions, right? That's why it's very important to know, feel, and do, right? You don't just educate, you don't just inform, you don't just tell them, okay, these are the strategies, these are the tools. You also need to inspire them. You also need to give them hope, right? You also need to entertain. And the last one is do. You need to invite, persuade, collaborate. So there. So the know, feel, and do. Now, uh, probably you might be thinking right now, what is this guy doing in front of me right now? This the picture of this guy. So I want you to think about it. I want you to think about it. Imagine that the lockdown's already over. Imagine that we're already back to our normal lives. And what if while walking along Ayala Avenue in Makati, this guy right here, comes to you and he tells you, okay, so give me 10,000 pesos and I'll teach you how to earn 1 million in 30 days. What would be your reaction? What's the first thing that comes into your mind? This guy comes to you, he tells you, give me 1,000 pesos, 10,000 pesos, and I'll teach you how to earn 1 million in 30 days. Would you believe him? Or, would you believe him or not? What if this guy comes to you telling you the same thing, and he tells you a different tone of voice, and he tells you, okay, so give me your 10,000 pesos, and I'll teach you how to earn 1 million in 30 days. I know you get the point, right? Get the point. You see, people buy from you if they trust you. They won't buy from you if you're not trustworthy. In the same way, my point here really, guys, is this. In the same way, when you train, trainees buy your idea if you know that they trust you as a trainer. Would you agree? Type agree if you agree. They buy from you if you're trustworthy. If they see you as a trainer, they buy your idea if they know that they trust you as a trainer. Which leads me to the ABCs of an effective trainer. What what are the things that we need to do in order for you to become an effective trainer? Just like what happened, what I showed you earlier, because how you appear, how you behave, and communicate sends a message. Everything that you do sends a message. So the thing that we need to look at here are the three things. The first one is your appearance. Appearance. We also have the behavior. We also have communication, and all of these things talk about your image integrity. We're talking about image management here. Why is it important? Because how you behave and communicate sends a message about who you are, not just as a trainer, but a person. So in essence, this is your brand as a trainer. This is your brand as a trainer. So let's go deeper at ABCs of an effective trainer. So the ABCs, these things that I'm about to share with you, the ABCs help us to meet the goals of the transformative training, because your goal really is to offer transformation to your trainees, to your attendees, to help you in meeting the goals of transformative training. You need to learn the ABCs. And what are the ABCs? These things. The ABCs of an effective trainer is from the moment they see you, when you step inside the room, they already assess whether whether they will listen to you or not. It will help them or not. Um, I remember this study in Harvard, a Harvard study before. It says that a Harvard study shows it takes 7 seconds to go from observation to value judgment, right? We know people are judgmental. So this Harvard study tells us that it takes 7 seconds to go from observation to value judgment. That's 7 seconds, guys. So everything that they see in you, when you step into that room, they judge you right away. Of course, that's not to say that first impressions last, right? But of course, they can change their mind as the days pass. But it really helps that at the first contact, you already have their trust. Would you agree? So all the elements you can use them. You are the first bait. More than the activities and icebreakers, it will help you. I mean, your whole self, you can attract their attention. This is why, as a trainer, I want you to to look right into my eye. As a trainer, you must have visual impact. You must have visual impact. So let's start with the appearance first. Let's start with the ABs of an effective trainer. The first one is appearance. So appearance, this is the surface, how you present yourself. I mean, your grooming, your wardrobe of choice, the footwear that you use. You want to make a favorable impression. If you are a trainer, then show you are a trainer in your choice of clothing, right? You don't use ragged clothes as a trainer. You have to look the part of a professional as a trainer. So one of the reasons why we do that is because there is a certain level of authority that your attire communicates. Do you actually have visual impact? Do you have visual impact? So just want to share this with you, the ABs of an effective trainer. These colors right here, you can use the color psychology to set the tone of the learning environment. So from the choice of color, you can create the atmosphere you want in the room. So say, for example, if you're wearing blue, that actually signifies or that represents tranquility or security or trust. Green, it's refreshing for growth. Red for authority, strength, power. Pink, joy, compassion, happiness. Um, I don't know how to pronounce this. Charm, magnetic standout. For yellow, bright, creative, radiant. Brown, simplicity, down to earth, humility. Gray, reliability, security. Black, elegant, formal, classic. Orange, friendliness, easy to approach. White, purity, ease, or goodness. So there's a reason why I'm wearing what I'm wearing right now, because I want to get the message across that what I'm telling that I'm a trustworthy person, that you're secured with me, Max, diba? Um, it also represents black represents formal or classic. So there. So that's the color psychology. It sets the tone of the learning environment. So from the choice of color, you can create the atmosphere you want in the room. So there. So let's just do a. It's again. By the way, let me just reiterate this. Let me just emphasize this. This is not really power dressing. You're not power dressing. You're not there to gain power. You dress up to teach a lesson about the training that they need to undertake. So everything that you communicate, everything about you communicate a message. It doesn't mean that you need to wear expensive clothes. Well, actually, I remember this training we did in Tagaytay before, and my co-trainer was asking me, how much do you think is the price of the clothes that I'm wearing right now? She's actually wearing a very elegant blazer, and I was guessing. I told her probably that's around 7,000 or 10,000. And I was actually surprised when she told me that it was just 50 pesos, which she bought in Ukay Ukay. So there, it doesn't really expensive. You just have to be comfortable. And sometimes, if you're wearing a blazer, if you don't need that blazer, then lose the blazer if it's hot, right? So appearance matters in your effectivity. So when you dress up, your behavior changes. It boosts your confidence. It increases your charisma. It helps you deliver better. So there. The next factor is behavior. The next factor is behavior. So behavior, it includes your attitude and personality. So when we talk about behavior, it includes your attitude and personality. What do we mean by attitude? You know what? When you as a trainer, when you enter the room, people already start looking at you. So part of the attitude is that you acknowledge them or smiling. You'll never go wrong when you're always smiling. Of course, um, they're smiling, or you go straight to fixing your equipment. So that sends a message. If right there and then you come into the room and you fix your equipments, that already talks a lot about you. So there, that's your attitude. Remember, they respond to how you treat them. There's this passage that says, you teach people how you treat them. So as a trainer, one way to teach them is you acting as a trainer. Because if you're acting like you're not a trainer, then it's as if you're telling these people, this is how you treat me, right? So your attitude tells these people how to treat you. You you teach people how to treat you. So be warm. It's also important to develop trust and camaraderie. Um, so there. So C, I for I forgot to include the communication, which is really important in this slide. But yes, the last the C in the ABC is communication. It's really with regard to communication. In terms of communication, what I can just if I may suggest, if you whenever you create your content, it's really important to think about the person in mind. I mean, your target audience. Say, for example, you're delivering a training to to people who are having a hard time understanding English. So why would you communicate with them using the English language if they don't understand the English language, right? So it's really important that you know your audience. The bottom line here is, do you actually know your audience for their communication? So another thing is creating the course content and outline. How do you create course content and outline? The first and really important thing is preparation. Guys, preparation is everything, and everything is preparation. So each module features the following components. So of course we have the preparation that indicates the materials needed, the task the trainers need to complete in advance, and learning objectives. Of course, it's also important to get their attention. So for me as a trainer, the usual thing that I do is I need to think out of the box in order for me to grab their attention. That's one way for me to grab their attention. It's like a bait for them. You lure them into the topic. We also have the short theory input, the lessons, the principles, and explanation of skills and concepts. And you also have to practice the skills, right? So activities include individual, paired, or group activities. There are a lot of, sometimes you may want to incorporate role plays, right? Especially for the kinesthetic guys who love to move. So personal reflections, reflect on a message and assess they are progressing. Okay, so another thing that I want to share with you is this thing from National Training Laboratories Pyramid of Training Methods. It's just the same with the 20-40-80 rule, but this one is quite accurate, quite concise. So 5% people learn better, 5% through lecture. So 10% through reading, 20% through audiovisual, 30% through demonstration, 50% through discussion, 70% practice doing, and 90% when they teach others. That's why I always tell this. That whenever you design your presentation, you just don't think of that person being able to transform his life, himself or herself through the training that that person needs. The main goal is for that person to teach other people as well. Teach other people because that's 90%. So it's important that they teach other people as well. So let me just remind you again of the 20-40-80 rule that 20% of what they hear, adults typically remember 20% of what they hear, 40% of what they hear and see, and 80% of what they hear, see, and do. So it's really important to elicit their engagement because they learn even better when there is repeated practice of the new skill. So this quote from Benjamin Franklin says, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn," right? So always involve them. So we're already done with the two phases, that's analysis and design. The third one is developing the training materials. But of course, before that, since I mentioned to you about the little surprises, so now I'm going to give away the second surprise, which is the book Conquering Stage Fright. Okay, so let me know if you're ready. Can you just comment down below if you're ready? I'm going to flash the question to your screen right now. And you'll get a chance to win this book, Conquering Stage Fright. Of course, our PMAP representatives will be choosing the winner for this question. Right? Are you ready? Right? Again, I see comments popping up right now. Okay, if you're ready, so here's the question. Here's the question for this second giveaway. The question is this: what is your single biggest challenge when developing your training materials? So for those of you who haven't tried implementing or doing trainings, what do you think for you? What's the single biggest challenge when developing your training materials? Okay, I'll give you 1 minute to answer that question. You'll get the chance to win Conquering Stage Fright book, hard copy. Okay, 30 seconds, guys. Our PMAP representatives must be really busy right now checking your comments, checking your answers. So make sure uh, you share your answer down below. You'll get a chance to win that book. I'm gonna send it to you via Lalamove. Okay. All right. There's about 1,500 comments right now. 1,500 comments right now. Again, thank you everyone. There are about 460 participants in this Zoom alone. I'm not sure if there are people watching on Facebook or YouTube. So there. Are you done? Okay. Right. So just a second. Okay. All right. So if you're done, okay. So let's move on, shall we? Okay, so what's your single biggest challenge when developing your training materials? All right, so let's move on. At the end of the webinar, I'm gonna reveal to you the winners of the prizes that we have for today. So that's just the second giveaway. We still have one more and two VIP passes to the HR Summit Global. So you better get ready. You better don't even blink, if I may, if you will. So there again, also we're giving away free passes to the HR Summit Global. This is a 24-hour pass. So just go to bit.ly/pmap/March if you want to download, if you want to get an access of the HR Summit Global, that's free. So there, um, free for, I believe that's 3 days. Free for 3 days. So you'll get a chance to hear our high caliber speakers in terms of in this HR Summit Global. Okay, so let's continue. So there. Um, so we're talking about here the third, the next thing that I'm about to share with you is how to develop the training materials. So the first thing is you may want to leverage on the power of PowerPoint. So I'm a Mac user, so I don't use PowerPoint, but what I use is Keynote, but it's just the same. It's just the same. For the power of PowerPoint, probably one of the suggestions, one of the things that I may want to share with you is um, just be consistent with the branding. Just be consistent with the branding. I'd like to share more about PowerPoint, but in the interest of time, um, that's just the only tip I can share with you about the power of PowerPoint. Just be consistent with the branding. Just be consistent with the branding. So there, you may also for the training materials, you may also want to use anchors or props. So I love doing this whenever I give talks, whenever I give trainings. What I usually do is I have props with me. Um, there was one time I had these props consisting of I had water, I have ketchup, I had hot sauce, and I had all of these things just to drive my point. So yes, anchors. Um, these props are like anchors. So it's really important that you have them. Think of think of these things that you can use as your anchors. And also we have videos. Earlier I shared with you video because most of you are visuals, right? Um, so you may want to use videos as well in your presentation. And okay, I'm not going to share that with you. And of course, stories. So I just want to emphasize this one. It's really important that you share stories because people are being engaged. People have this tendency to daydream whenever they hear about in a nice way, right? Whenever they hear about stories. So make sure you craft your story. Make sure you have your story whenever you present or whenever you train. What's your story? Why? Because when you share facts, people get easily bored. But when you share stories, stories actually sell. So facts tell, stories sell, right? So make use of stories. So there. Um, so that's just for that stage. Now let's move on to the implementation phase. So let me just set your expectation. Usually, uh, I remember when I delivered this training of trainer to these managers, certain managers, we actually had 5 days to do that training. So what they did in the implementation phase was that they delivered their own module for 30 minutes or so, 30 minutes to 1 hour. And after the implementation phase, they get evaluated. We evaluated them. So, but today we're not going to do the implementation phase, but I'm just going to share with you some tips on how you implement these things. But usually in the implementation, you get evaluated based on the contents, COD, based on the contents, based on the organization, and based on your delivery. It's the implementation phase. But I just want to share with you the roles of a trainer in implementing these things. So you need to know your role as a trainer whenever you implement the design, the um, the training material that you already designed. What are the roles of the trainer? Um, you are a presenter, or you are an instructor. So sharing with participants specific information contained in the virus sessions. So you establish um, when you share specific information, you establish yourself as an expert of the topic you're sharing. So about 80% of the presenter's time is spent in one-way telling and 20% listening or engaging participants. So there. So many times a visual will be used to help convey the information, such as phrases written in a chart or a board, or if you nowadays we already have the LCD projector, right? Assuming that you will have an LCD projector at your disposal. So there, so you share specific information. Another role as a trainer is that you're also an organizer. You create or you choose suitable activities aligned to the topic. Again, the keyword there is suitable activities aligned to the topic. It should be aligned to the topic, right? So many times you allow them to do role playing just to drive a point. So for us, when we do this training of trainers, we usually ask them to do role playing. Of course, don't forget the energizers. Um, of course, also you need to adjust these to participants' different types of learning, right? You need to consider that one. You're also a helper. You're also a helper. You discover on thoughts, opinions, or insights. Helping participants discover their own thoughts, opinions, and insights regarding the topic being discussed. So you lead large group discussions, structures, and oversee small group discussions and activities, and ask questions that help participants think about the topic. So there, um, help participants build the topic. I like what Maya Angelou said. Um, People will never forget what you said. People will never forget what you said. People will forget. Oh, sorry. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So there, it's all about feelings. It's all about driving emotions, right? People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. People will never forget how you made them feel. It's also the same way when you're just sharing just because you think that you're knowledgeable, but the people don't sense that you're actually caring. There's also this quote that says, "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." So there should be heart, there should be puso. You need to care because people can sense it. People can sense your passion. People can sense if you're just out there trying to impress, right? Or trying to give them those flowery words. So people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right? And you're also a demonstrator. So your participants appreciate seeing the skill being successfully demonstrated prior to them attempting to use the skill in a practice session. So you demonstrate first. Um, Also, you contribute your thoughts and opinions to the participants' discussion. Now, the only danger here is that when you're contributing your thoughts and opinions to the participants' discussion, the only danger that I see here with this strategy is that the participants may start to limit their contribution once you have joined the conversation, once you have joined the discussion. But of course, the skillful leader or the skillful facilitator or the skillful trainer will make his or her contribution, then return to the focus of the discussion, the thoughts and opinions of the participants. And I believe one of the most important things that you need to consider as your role as a trainer is to walk the talk. You need to be the role model. I remember when that was, I'm not sure if that was 5 years ago when we were giving this life skills training in Mandaluyong, when I led a life skills training in Mandaluyong. I was about to go out. I was about to go to the grocery, and I was just wearing ragged clothes and everything. And I thought about it. I was giving life skills to this certain group of people. And what if they see me wearing these clothes? I mean, um, what I'm just saying here is that many participants observe their leader or facilitator to see if they use the information and skills taught in the lessons. So, while you do not have to achieve or even strive for perfection, you should choose behaviors. Behaviors. The key here is behaviors. You don't have to dress nice all the time, but you need to choose behaviors that are congruent with the values, skills, and theory being taught. So there's best examples in your office. If you're applying these to your constituents or to your employees, are you actually doing what you're teaching them? Are you walking the talk? So there, for some, you may be one of the most significant people in their lives at this particular time and are looked upon as a role model. And last but not the least, you're also a manager. You're also a manager. You address and mediate conflicts. When we trained in Cebu, I remember that there was this one student um, um, who was in conflict with other student. So from the other room, so we had to act as managers to mediate. We needed to act as mediators in that conflict. So that's also your role as a trainer. You're also a manager. So let's review the roles of an effective trainer. You're an evaluator. You're also a manager. You're also a presenter. Of course, you're also a demonstrator. You're also a participant in discussions. And the most important thing, I believe, is you're a role model, right? So talk about being a role model. I'm going to show you something, a video again, to explain what I mean. I hope you you watch this video. This is a very nice video. So allow me to share this with you. For some of you, you probably have already watched this video, but I'm gonna share this with you anyway. So watch this.
That's not even funny, dude. So, Coach, how strong is Westview this year? Much stronger than we are. You already written Friday night down as a loss, Brock? Well, not if I know we could beat them. Come here, Brock. You too, Jeremy. What, am I in trouble now? Not yet. I want to see you do the death crawl again, except I want to see your absolute best. What, you want me to go to the 30? I think you can go to the 50. The 50? I can go to the 50 if nobody's on my back. I think you can do it with Jeremy on your back. But even if you can, I want you to promise me you're going to do your best. All right. Your best. Okay. You going to give me your best? I'm going to give you my best. All right, one more thing. I want you to do it blindfolded. Why? Because I want you giving up at a certain point when you can go further. Get down. Jeremy, get on his back. Get a good tight hold, Jeremy. All right. Let's go, Brock. Keep your knees off the ground. Just your hands and feet. There you go. A little bit left. A little bit left. There you go. Show me good effort. That way, Brock. Keep coming. There you go. It's a good start. A little bit left. A little bit left. There you go, Brock. Good strength. That's it, Brock. That's it. 20 yet? Forget the 20. You give me your best. You keep going. That's it. Don't stop, Brock. You got more in you than that. I ain't done. Just resting a second. You got to keep moving. Let's keep moving. Let's go. Don't quit till you got nothing left. There you go. Keep moving. Keep moving. Keep moving, Brock. That's it. You keep driving. Keep your knees off the ground. Keep driving it. Your very best. Your very best. Your very best. Keep moving, Brock. That's it. That's it. That's it. Keep going. Don't quit on me. Keep going. Keep driving it. Keep your knees off the ground. That's it. Your very best. Don't quit on me. Your very best. Keep driving. Keep driving. There you go. There you go. That's it. You keep driving. Keep your knees off the ground. Keep driving it. Don't quit till you got nothing left. Keep moving, Brock. That's it. That's it. That's it. Keep going. I want everything you got. Come on. Keep going. It hurts. Don't quit on me. Your very best. Keep driving. Keep driving. There you go. There you go. He's heavy. I know he's heavy. I'm bad strength. Then you negotiate with your body to find more strength, but don't you give up on me, Brock. You keep going. You hear me? You keep going. You're doing good. You keep going.
So there, guys. So I hope you were inspired by that video. But the reason why I shared that video with you is because that's also your role as a trainer. You're a motivator. You're a coach, and you're the best person that can tell your participants, "Hey, don't quit till you got nothing left." Right? Help them face their giants. That's your role as a trainer. More than anything else, more than delivering the modules, they need to see your heart. They need to see your passion. They need to see that you care, that you love them. Right? So that's very important. That's your role as a trainer. You're their coach. You're their motivator. So there. Yeah. So we're almost we're almost at the end of our webinar. Why? Because we're about to give the last. the last giveaway to you guys. So the last book that I'm gonna give away is this book, Money and Me. Um, Money and Me. This is a physical book again. Again, of course, this is the last one, but we still have two VIP passes. So before we start, can you just comment again down below if you're ready? If you're ready, so I can flash the question to you on the screen. So this is our last book that I'm gonna give away for free. And I'm ready. All right. I love the energy of this room. You know, I can't see you guys, but I can feel your energy right now. Thank you so much for participating. Okay, so if you're ready, let me flash now the question. So this is the question, the last question. What do you think is the most important role of an effective trainer? You've watched the video, you've heard me share about the roles of an effective trainer, but for you, what do you think is the most important role of an effective trainer and why? Why do you think so? What is the most important role of an effective trainer? All right, so you have 1 minute to post your answer in the comments down below. We're down to our last phase. So there. Thank you again, guys. We still have 436 participants in this Zoom alone. Thank you so much for staying. Thank you for tuning in. And for the people watching on Facebook, thank you guys for being with us this Thursday morning. And for people watching on YouTube, thank you. Thank you so much. I hope you're learning something. I hope you're getting value from these things that I'm sharing with you. So there. What do you think is the most important role of an effective trainer? All right, so last 10 seconds before we get to the evaluation phase. Okay, so I think we're done. So our PMAP representatives will again choose the winner for this last prize. Again, at the end of the webinar, this is not yet the end. At the end of the webinar, there are still 2 free passes of the $165 summit. So make sure you finish this webinar because I'm gonna give that at the end of the webinar. Okay, so let's move on to the evaluation phase, which is the last phase actually. So we're done with the 4 phases. Now this is the last phase, the evaluation phase, which is the feedback, processing, and additional tips on facilitating. Again, earlier I shared with you that in the evaluation phase, usually there are people who get evaluated here. So I remember when we did this training of trainers to our participants before, to the managers, they were allowed to deliver the module, and we gave them feedback in terms of, again, content, in terms of organization, in terms of delivery, and also feedback processing and additional tips on presenting, facilitating. So there, usually whenever we do our training, what happens usually is there is a lead trainer or there is a facilitator or assistant trainer. So what happens is at the end of the presentation, at the end of every training, what we do is that we gather after the session. So we talk about what went wrong, we talk about what worked well, we talk about the things that we need to improve, and what actions that need to be taken. So those are the things that we usually take note of, because those are the things that we bring with us whenever we give the same set of training again. So there. So what went wrong, what worked well, how can I improve, what actions that need to be taken. And usually what we do, just like what I have mentioned a while back, the lead facilitator or the lead trainer will ask, this is usually what happens whenever we evaluate. So there is a lead trainer or a lead facilitator, and then this lead facilitator will ask each and every one, okay, so give us your self-evaluation. The first thing that we do is the self-evaluation. You evaluate yourself first. Okay, so what do you think went well? What do you think happened today? So that person will give him or his or her evaluation. And after that, every team member gets to give their feedback, group feedback. That's how we usually evaluate things. In Toastmasters, um, I would like to believe that there are Toastmasters in the house. Um, in Toastmasters, what we do is that we have this praise, praise first, then the criticism, and then the praise. What does that mean? So it's like a sandwich method that you just don't give constructive criticisms right away, because our tendency as humans is that we uh, sometimes we tend to be a little sensitive, especially when we're given feedback, right? So whenever we give feedback, we follow this sandwich feedback technique. So how do we do that? You praise that person first. Um, Tell him or her what went well, what the things that you liked about the presentation. But the key here is that you need to be honest with your praise and worthy with your approbation. So think what are the things that went well today. So give him or her the praises, the things that went well, the things that you observed that you liked about the presentation. And that's when you give your criticism or your constructive criticism. Okay, perhaps you may want to give some examples, or perhaps you need to tone down your voice. So those things, criticism. And after that, you end with the praise. You end with the praise. You tell them, but you know what? Other than that, I love the overall performance. Your overall performance today, people were engaged. You're actually happy with the way you delivered the training. So there, uh, this doesn't just apply to training or to giving evaluations. It also applies when a friend asks a feedback from you. Say, for example, you really wanted you really want to tell that person, I that's really frustrating. It's frustrating to see her stand in front. So don't just tell her right away those things. Start with your praise first. There will always be something that you like about the presentation. Start with that first. Don't start with your criticism. Don't start with the negative things right away. Because again, as humans, our tendency is that we tend to lose our passion or energy whenever we hear negative things, right? But if you do the sandwich method, you start with the praise first. You know what? I like your dress. I like your makeup, even if it's not related to the talk, right? I liked how you're smiling earlier. How I like how you were smiling earlier, and then that's when you give him or her the constructive criticism. If I may suggest, so how this is how we usually do it in Toastmasters. When we give feedback, we don't tell the person, don't do this or that. Don't You should have done this. You should have delivered it this way. That's actually not the way we do it. So this is how we usually give feedback. Uh, you know what? I love the delivery. I love your delivery. I love how you enunciated every word. If I may suggest for your future presentation, you may want to consider doing these things. So, right? So if you do that thing, it's on how you deliver. It's on how you say those words, right? Um, if I may suggest that that's the phrase that we usually use. If I may suggest, if I may recommend, so those things, and then end with your praise. So that's the sandwich feedback. Again, guys, these doesn't just apply to training to evaluations, but in life in general. Whenever a friend asks for feedback, start by doing this sandwich technique, the praise, criticism, and the praise. We call that the sandwich technique. Start with the positive, then the negative feedback, and then the positive. Right? So there. So additional, just some additional tips on gestures and posture. Probably some of you already know these tips that you're not supposed to put your hand in your pocket, right? I don't know what's your impression whenever you see trainers putting their hands in their pocket or doing these things when they're presenting, right? These things tell a lot of communicate a lot of things to your trainees, right? It shows nervousness, it shows arrogance. So it's really important that you know these hand gestures. Of course, eye to eye contact is also important. If you're not comfortable looking straight in the eye, then you may want to look him or her um, in between the eye. So just don't look at the eye. And one more thing, there are times that you need to exaggerate some points. What do you mean by that? There are times that you just you're not supposed to sound monotonous. I hope I got that right. That during the presentation, you just okay, you're just stating, you're just saying things with the same tones. If, for example, okay, so for today, I just want to share with you about the tips on the AD model and right. So people get bored when you do that. You need to exaggerate things. You need to exaggerate things. We're also actors here. If you're a trainer, sometimes you're also an actor. You exaggerate things. You can't be animated while showing decency at the same time, right? And this another tip is of course praying. Whenever I start a talk, whenever I start a training, I always remind myself that I'm here not for the purpose of of being popular or being known by people, but I'm here to glorify God. So that that works for me. I don't know about you, but for me that works. And another tip for overcoming nervousness is our tendency sometimes. This is a normal tendency, by the way, that when you're presenting, I don't know about you, but whenever you're standing in front, it's as if there's this spotlight being in front of your face, that people are looking at you, right? There's this spotlight effect. So instead of having that spotlight effect in your mind, why not remove the spotlight in front of you and put that spotlight to those people? Because it's not about you anyway. You're just there as an instrument. So what am I saying is this: you need to come from the place of help. If your mindset is coming from the place of help, then it's easier for you to deliver your message. Why? Because it's not about you anyway. The message that you're sharing to the people, to the trainees, is not about you, but for them. You're just there because you want to come from the place of help. So I want you to have that mindset, come from the place of help. Other suggestions, this the find your power pause. So this find your power pause. So for me, before the start of presentation, earlier, what I usually do is I have this power pause. I raise my hand. My power pose may be different with other people's power pose, but that's the point. Why do we do this power pose? Not just to not just to pose, but the psychology behind this is this: that your emotions follow your emotion. What does that mean? That when you deliver something, when you deliver a message, um, there are times that you're not your usual self, right? And sometimes you're even nervous, you're even thinking about it. Okay, I'm not in the mood to share this message to them. But you're doing your power pose is telling yourself that this is my motion, this is my movement. And when you do that movement, even if you're not in the mood to deliver that message, then your emotion follows your emotion, follows your movement. So there, that's the psychology behind it. Your emotion follows your emotion. Your emotion follows your emotion. So power pose, and of course, why evaluate? Why do we need to evaluate um, these presentation or these things? The first thing that we evaluate because we want to identify whether the training design is effective. Of course, if our objectives were met, right? So when we start the training needs analysis, there has to be an objective. When we design, there has to be an objective. And most importantly, to know how else we can improve and give value to our trainees. Again, the key word here is value. So whenever you do something, whatever that is, you always need to think what value could these people get from these things that I'm about to share to them. Think about the value. This is also the reason why um, the modules go through a lot of development and constant improvement. So you just don't end after delivering the training. Okay, I'm already good with that. That's the same thing that I'm going to deliver. You need to assess yourself. So what else do I need to improve for the trainees to get value out of it. So there. So that is why it's important for you to do the training needs analysis first, right? So we're about to end, but I'm gonna share with you first the four levels of evaluation. So there are four levels of the level one is reaction, level two is learning, level three is behavior, and level four is results. This is the Kirkpatrick model. So to give you a background on the design of evaluation tools for the training, there is a worldwide standard for evaluating the effectiveness of training, and this is the Kirkpatrick. And this model helps you objectively analyze the effectiveness and impact of your training across four levels. Across four levels, the four levels are reaction, that's learning, that's behavior, and results. So this is the Kirkpatrick model. So you can also understand the levels of evaluation this way. The level one, this pertains to the satisfaction or happiness. How satisfied are they? The level two measures the knowledge or skills required. The level three measures transfer or application of learning to the workplace. And the level four measures transfer or impact to society. Are they impacted in any way? So there, those are the levels of evaluation. So for the level one, if the trainees feel the training was worth their time, just like this one that I'm delivering to you right now, I really hope it's worth your time. I really hope you get value out of these things that I'm sharing to you. Did they think that it was successful? What are the biggest strengths of the training and the biggest weaknesses? Did they like the venue and presentation style? So did the training session accommodate their personal learning style? So there, those things. So level two evaluation, that's when you the evaluation of learning. Measures if they actually learn the material. If you would notice earlier, the questions pertaining to the giveaways always have something to do with the module that we just discussed, because that's my way of evaluating if you're getting something out of it. So there, that's one way to evaluate it. Evaluation of learning. Measures if they actually learn the material. So when doing level two evaluation, it's best to test the trainees not just after, but before and after training to determine their knowledge, skills, levels, and attitudes. So there. So level three, the evaluation of behavior. Note that you can take notes of success stories during the training for you to evaluate. Just a second. Okay, sorry about that. So there, the evaluation of behavior. You may want to ask yourself, did the trainings put any of their learning to use? Are trainees able to teach their knowledge, skills, and attitudes to other people? Are trainees aware that they've changed their behavior? So the methods being used here are observations, interviews over time. So level four is the evaluation of results. The evaluation of results. Okay, so these can be most costly and time-consuming to measure. So what was the effect of the training as a whole? Ask yourself, what was the effect? Did the training positively impact the organization? Did it help achieve desired results? So some of examples of what it measures. So that's the four levels of evaluation. The level one, which is the reaction, level two, which is the learning, level three, which is the behavior, and level four is the results. So there, so by going through and analyzing each of these four levels, you can gain a thorough understanding of how effective your training was and how you can improve the design and your delivery in the future. So I'm about to end, guys, but before I end, I just would like to, I would like you to meet this person. His name is Dado Banatao. I'm not in any way related to this guy, but Dado's innovations make up about 30% in the world today. So how did he do it? Through innovation, through inspiring, through meeting. I want you to meet him in person. So I'm gonna flash a video. I'm gonna show you a video right now. I hope you get inspired by the work of this guy named Dado Banatao. And after this, we're gonna wrap it up, and I'm gonna, of course, some announcements, of course, and we still have two more prizes after this. So I want you to watch this video right here.
My name is Dado Banatao. I come from the north. My father was a farmer. I am an engineer. I grew up in a typical barrio in Cagayan Valley. Back then, there was no electricity, no telephones. I was taught math by moving bamboo sticks. There were no luxuries. Almost all of my classmates stopped going to school after 6th grade to help in the fields. But my father never asked me to help him. He wanted a better life for me. He made it clear his job was to keep food on the table. My job was to study. I went to high school far from my home. I felt inferior to the other students. They were from the city. I was the son of a farmer. While my friends played basketball, I studied. I fell in love with engineering. I wanted to build things. But when I graduated from Mapua, there were no design jobs for engineers in the Philippines. So I moved to America. I applied for a master's in engineering at Stanford University. I was excited, but I was also so intimidated. Everyone seemed smarter than I was. So I studied twice as hard. I saw an opportunity to design better computer chips, and I started a company. That company failed. No one told me that I could do it. I had to tell myself that I could. And so I tried it again. This time, we succeeded. My success is a direct result of my beginnings. It is the same will and determination that every Filipino possesses. Our country is one of the fastest growing economies in Asia. But over 30% of our people still live like I did growing up. But my life shows a different path is possible. It is why I started PhilDev. We imagine a Philippines where every school has internet, where deserving students are given scholarships so they never have to stop learning, where thousands of young Filipinos start companies that hire millions more. We know hardship. It's time we learn success. I am not so special, but I am determined. My story could be your story. As Filipinos, it must be our story.
All right, so there's the story of Dado Banatao. So really, the main purpose of me showing that video to you is to remind you to initiate change. I mean, we can change the world one person at a time. Why? Because when you change, you realize the change you can make in the lives of others, more so in your own organization. It's like what I shared with you when we started the session earlier, that probably you're thinking right now, how can I reach out to these people? Like, how can I help them? You don't need to you don't need to have an impact to a lot of people. if you can just touch the life of this one person, then that already would mean the world to whoever person that is. So that's the whole point of this webinar today. The reason why we're having these core competencies for training and development, not just for the purpose of us growing our companies or growing ourselves, but in order for us to contribute to the change that the world needs. And the world needs you. The world needs you. So there, guys, thank you so much for staying until the end of the webinar. We still have 406 people here and we're about to end. But of course, as promised, I still have two more prizes to give away. So are you ready? Are you ready for our last question? We're going to pick two grand winners. So we still have 3 more minutes. Okay, so two grand winners, VIP passes to the HR Summit Global worth $165. So this is the question. What are your three biggest takeaways from this session? Three biggest takeaways from this session. Just comment down below and we're gonna choose two winners to win VIP passes to the HR Summit Global worth $165. So you're gonna have lifetime access to the HR Summit Global. That's for the paid version. That's $165. Right? What are your three biggest takeaways from this session? Okay, three biggest takeaways. All right. So there is right, your three biggest takeaways. So we're about to end, but just write down your answers. So let me just, so there are still a few questions here, but I'm just, in the interest of time, I can no longer answer them. But I hope there's a way for me to answer your questions. But for now, let me just announce our winners for today. For the three winners first, while our PNL representatives are choosing the winners for the two VIP passes. So, okay, this is Jake. You may now flash your screen for our winners. See, are you ready?
Yes po. Paki-an lang po yung slide.
Okay. Stop share. All right. Okay. So we're about to announce the winners. So Jay will be flashing the names of our winners. Okay, so here are our three winners. So for our winner number one, the question, what is your single biggest challenge when it comes to training needs analysis? We have a winner here. That's Vanessa Oceana. If you're here, Vanessa Oceana, you just won for yourself that book. They will be contacting you. The second winner is Sharon Oliveros, and we have Jetsi Ira Chan. Okay, so Sharon Oliveros. We have Vanessa Oceana. I hope you're here. You're still here. We also have Sharon Oliveros. That's the winner number two. Number three is Jetsi Ira Chan. So those are the winners. And okay, how about the winners for the two VIP passes? So we still have, they're still looking. Congrats to the winners, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We still have 379 participants here right now. Thank you for staying. And again, for those of you who weren't able to, for those of you who did not win any prize for today, it's okay, because it's like what I have shared a while ago. You can get the access to for 3 days to the HR Global Summit. So make sure you go to what's the link again? I'm just going to share the link in the comments below if you want to. Okay. All right. Okay, so there's the link if you want to get an access to the 3-day, if you want to have a 3-day access to the global HR summit. I just received a notification from Jay that they will just be emailing the last two winners. So it's already 12, so we're already over time. So we're just gonna email the winners for the last two, for the VIP passes or the lifetime access to the HR Global HR Summit. All right, so there I'm gonna post again the link to the free HR Summit. You can download, you can get just go there to that link and have you can have that 3D access to the Global HR Summit. Thank you again, everyone. I hope you learned something. I hope I was able to give something of value to you. And again, this has been March Nasino. Stay safe, everyone. God bless everyone. Thank you so much.